The scene shifted to a meeting with the captain and various team leaders as they discussed the situation. The medical team leader informed the captain that, based on visual examination, the cause of Kisaragi Yujin's death appeared to be an attack on her neck, possibly by a small saw-like instrument. The captain was taken aback by this information and contemplated their next steps. The captain asked about the possibility of conducting an autopsy, but the doctor suggested that further examination was needed to confirm the cause of death. Uncertain about what to do, the captain expressed his frustration. The security team leader reported that they had checked all the ship's surveillance cameras but found nothing unusual. He also mentioned that the primary suspect, the guard, was currently being interrogated. However, he believed that the guard was likely not the perpetrator. The captain instructed the team leader to report the results of the search as soon as they became available. He then brought up the recent incident in the lab, where a promising talent had his brain removed while alive due to disobedience. The captain emphasized the severity of the consequences that awaited those involved in Kisaragi Yujin's death, warning that they could face a similar fate. The meeting attendees appeared fearful as they discussed how to handle the situation. Various suggestions were made, including blaming the death on a lab accident or food poisoning. However, tensions rose among the team leaders as they argued about the best course of action. Amid the chaos, the risk management team leader urged everyone to calm down, emphasizing that turmoil would only complicate matters. He then brought up the fact that they were near Planet C8, which was the territory of the Space Dogs, a notorious group of space pirates and their arch-enemies. The captain was initially taken aback by this revelation, but the risk management team leader explained that the Space Dogs were known for raiding and pillaging, and even veteran battleships had suffered losses against them. He proposed that they could report being attacked by the Space Dogs to cover up Yujin's death. The captain was concerned about their limited armaments, but the risk management team leader suggested contacting his friends, who had ties to the Space Dogs and could help stage an attack. The captain agreed to this plan, albeit reluctantly. The captain reminded the risk management team leader to handle the situation properly, and the man assured him that he would. The meeting concluded with preparations underway, and the captain decided to leave the handling of Yujin's corpse to the risk management team leader until the Space Dogs arrived. The team leaders left the meeting with their respective tasks, and the situation became increasingly complex, with the crew of the research ship now involved in a dangerous web of deception and intrigue. The Amorph, now in its larva stage, contemplated its next steps for survival and evolution. It examined its current status and traits, noting that it had successfully achieved its first evolution and was now considered a larva. The Amorph understood that there were a total of 6 stages of evolution, with the final one being ascension, which was akin to completing the Amorphous storyline. As it examined its traits, the Amorph realized that it was on track to become a physical enhancement type. Types were similar to other races' jobs, but had slight differences. When specific conditions were met, a type would unlock, granting related abilities with a synergy bonus. However, there was a mysterious 0.5 condition that the Amorph didn't recognize. It remembered that it had left a part of Kisaragi Yujin uneaten, and that might be the missing piece. The Amorph decided to find Yujin's corpse to consume her psychic powers. It left its nest and crawled through the ventilation ducts, which now felt narrower due to its increased size. The Amorphous hypersenses led it to a scent that it recognized the smell of a corpse. It followed the scent and soon realized that it was above the morgue, where the deceased were laid to rest. The man stationed near the morgue detected an unusual odor, prompting him to investigate its source. As he approached the source of the smell, he stumbled upon a hole that appeared to have been corroded by acid. Unbeknownst to him, the Amorph was lurking nearby. Puzzled by the strange odor, he contemplated calling the guards before departing the area. However, just as he was about to leave, the Amorph ambushed him, striking him on the head with its tail. The Amorph swiftly infiltrated the location where Yujin's lifeless body lay covered. With a sense of curiosity, it removed the blanket covering her. The Amorph pondered its strange circumstances, reflecting on its ability to mercilessly end lives without experiencing guilt. It wondered whether its transformation into an Amorph had corrupted its nature or if its ruthless, murderous tendencies had always been a part of its true self. Yet, introspection yielded no answers, so it decided to address its hunger first. Using both arms, the Amorph firmly grasped Eugène's lifeless face, opening its maw to begin feasting on her body. It contemplated the harsh reality of its existence, that in order to survive, it must continue to take lives. This, it concluded, was the essence of being an Amorph, a relentless need to adapt. It also considered that in the grand scheme of nature, bodies decompose and return to nourish the earth. Therefore, perhaps it was only natural for it to derive sustenance from them. As it devoured the deceased body, the Amorph discovered a foreign device in Eugène's mouth, which seemed to originate from her heart. Unfamiliar with its purpose, it pondered whether it might be related to a heart condition she had. Suddenly, a system window appeared before the Amorph, revealing a surprising revelation. It appeared that Kisaragi Eugène possessed the coveted psychic powers trait, confirming the Amorph's earlier suspicions. The predation effect was triggered, and it acquired a gene fragment labeled as the psychic organ. Although the Amorph was initially disappointed because Amorphs could use psychic powers without such an organ, it decided to remain optimistic and clicked the yes button. I need to fill trait slots to unlock types anyway, the Amorph thought as its body evolved. So, this is an Amorph 1, huh? Now, interesting. It may fuse with another trait by chance and become useful. Despite the initial disappointment, the Amorph continued its quest for adaptation. Finished with Kisaragi, next, I'll try eating a guard. Guards have some subtle flavor, maybe because of the high muscle content. It's like chewing intestines. Suddenly, the Amorph sensed a shift change among the guards. Pondering the situation, it mused, do they not have many reinforced suits on this ship? The one coming is wearing the suit from the previous guy. Observing the approaching medic, it remarked, this medic will change shifts too, right? The moment the replacement enters, he'll notice the changes in this room. Since this is the space era, obviously, he'll think there's a monster in the same space as them. I'm not strong enough yet for an all-out battle with the crew. I need something to buy time until I get stronger. Smoke screen. Come to think of it, this was the morgue. The preservatives and chemicals to handle corpses. A fun idea suddenly came to me. A beneficial way to get through the crisis and harass the crew. The Amorph contemplated the structure of Megacorp, emphasizing that while it lacked an official capital, Earth served as the de facto headquarters. It elaborated on the dominance of the 5 companies that established Megacorp, with the Eugene House originating from what was once known as East Asia, particularly South Korea. Over time, this small enterprise had grown into a vast empire that claimed every inch of South Korea as Eugene territory, with advanced transportation systems, artificial ecosystems, and countless tools under their control. On Earth, a man was engrossed in gardening, using a handheld shovel. This unassuming gardener was none other than the CEO of Eugene's. As 2 well-dressed men in suits approached him, he paused his work and inquired about their purpose. The man with shades solemnly reported, it's about the young lady, Lady Kisaragi. The farmer CEO smiled warmly and asked, the 3rd daughter, huh? Yes, what happened with Kisaragi? The man continued, the young lady's transmitter was destroyed. The farmer's expression changed, and he replied, that can't be. I didn't burden Kisaragi with unpleasant tasks. The man in shades pressed on, the last signal came from near C8. Checking shows it's space dog territory. Without warning, the farmer CEO put his hand on the man's shoulder and, still wearing a poker face, used his handheld shovel to strike the man with shades, instantly incapacitating him. He relentlessly continued his attack until the man lay lifeless on the ground. 3 other men swiftly covered the deceased body with a blanket, and the farmer CEO ordered them to dispose of it. With a cold demeanor, he turned away and stated, I've no need for tools that answer unasked questions. You know the most important thing to us is that tools are tools, right? One of the men affirmed, yes, we'll be careful. The farmer CEO's thoughts turned to the gravity of the situation. The cost of raising Kisaragi was 10 billion credits, which is equivalent to a new prototype battleship. And I even had genetic enhancements done on her. How could mere pirates possibly lay hands on that child? I wonder who would dare harm the jewel of the Eugene house. He then turned to the man and asked, the ship Kisaragi was on, the captain was Samuel Yu, right? The man confirmed, yes. The farmer CEO continued, the Samuel house is near Titan. Those Egerton bastards have an interest there. But it's not their doing. Egerton's leader is a coward. He doesn't have the guts to bear fangs at the Eugene house. He shifted his attention back to the man and inquired, child, what do you think? The man replied, I suspect T&CS involvement. The farmer CEO chuckled, saying, haha, great minds think alike. TEC and Egerton appear to feud over ruling Jupiter but are actually in cahoots. Since Egerton's credits come from TEC, that snake is probably thinking of gaining control before the board meeting, right? You know too, don't you? The man nodded and said, yes. Tech's family head, Chamberlain, wants the CEO position, your seat, my lord. That's right. That cocky brat clearly has me in his sights. The farmer CEO became serious and issued a command, we have justification, so let's strike first. Inform everyone in the house. We have Shadow embedded near C8. Contact him to handle that. The man acknowledged with a grave tone, understood. There will be bloodshed. The CEO of Eugene's gave a final order, his resolve unwavering. Samuel, you and everyone who was even slightly involved with that ship, bring them all before me without exception. Those who damage my assets deserve death. At the morgue, the captain arrived to witness the unusual scene, where the dead bodies had turned to ash and smoke enveloped the area. Perplexed, he questioned one of the guards about the situation. Smoke came from the inside, you say? When you went in to check, there was a fire. The guard replied, yes, sir. I wanted to immediately check what had happened, but only doctors were allowed in. The medical team leader, after examining the remains, expressed his confusion. I don't understand how there could have been a fire when it's just corpses inside. Judging by the ring. Could it have been a team member working overtime? Are these all the corpses here? The man then requested the captain to gather the team leaders urgently, sensing that something terrible had occurred. The scene shifted to the meeting, where one leader exclaimed, what did you say? The guard and research team leaders' corpses are gone? The corpses didn't just get up and leave, right? How is that possible? Medical team leader. Are you sure you saw it right? The medical team leader affirmed, I checked over and over, only 2 corpses are missing, for sure. And that's not all. Considering the morgue's chemicals, a fire could occur, but to that extent, it is very rare. The risk management leader chimed in, suggesting, in other words, it was an intentional arson, right? Just who would do such a thing? The security team leader raised the possibility of an unidentified alien organism being on board, but this idea was met with skepticism from others. Forget that, another man interjected, the biggest issue is the missing research team leader's corpse. The captain, visibly upset, declared, we're supposed to meet with the pirates at C8. First, we need to identify the culprit. This isn't just my problem. If you're worried about Noble Capital's retaliation, cooperate as much as you can. The captain then turned to the risk management team leader, inquiring, did you contact them? The risk management leader replied, yes, right after the meeting ended. The captain instructed, don't mention anything about this and say that we will deliver the corpse as scheduled. The risk management leader questioned the decision, are you sure? Even if we find it, it's a problem if there's no way to handle it. We just need to find the corpse before the meetup. The captain placed a hand on the shoulder of the security team leader and said, security team leader, you know what you need to do, right? The culprit must be caught, no matter what. The security team leader responded, I'm already doing my best. The captain insisted, your best isn't enough. Search all crew members if needed, just find the culprit. I'll grant full authority regarding this. The security team leader acknowledged, yes, sir. I will definitely find them. In the vents, the Amorph was listening to the unfolding situation, feeling satisfied with the chaos it had sown. Things went seamlessly. A way to conceal my identity and confuse my enemies. It was a fire. Who would think that mixing chemicals in the morgue to start a fire was an alien's doing? After making a toxic substance by mixing the chemicals, I finished it off with some drops of acidic blood. Thanks to that, the corpses were well disposed of, and it went seamlessly, but I didn't expect the alien talk to come up. And of all things, they're going to contact those space trash. The captain must have lost his mind. Seems that the risk management team leader took the lead, got a check on him later. He may be colluding with the pirates. Pirates are diverse races, so I can obtain various genes, but the fragments I can get from the research ship will decrease due to the attack. I'll have to see the pirates' level to judge this properly. Huh? That person. He was clearly the supply management team leader who strongly denied my existence, right? He shouldn't have any relation to this situation, so why is he like that? The supply management team leader, growing wary, looked left and right before suddenly entering the cargo hold. The Amorph, using hypersenses, thought, he's the supply management team leader, he can just openly go in. That kind of wary behavior is too unnatural. What sweet secret did he stash that caused that reaction? Wait, what's that container? The team leader's trace stopped there. ID card and fingerprint authentication. The security is higher than that of the other containers. The walls are so thick that even my hypersenses can't see inside. He must be hiding something important. Thanks to him, my curiosity is piqued. Originally, I planned to target the medical team leader, but I changed my mind. My next target is him. The scene shifted to the supply management team leader drinking alcohol. One man urged, "Team leader, please stop drinking now." The leader insisted, "Just one more, one more." The man questioned, "Why are you so clingy today?" The leader revealed his inner turmoil, "I don't feel like I'm living these days." In his mind, he regretted his decision. Why did I trust the words of the black market cult dealer? I was tempted by the words that he got it from an ancient ruin, and I took it quickly because it seemed like it would sell well. It was good until I secretly loaded the eggs on the day of the deal. And then one of the eggs hatched the day after I loaded it. If only I had closed the container door properly that day. I can't complain to anyone. If the captain finds out, he'll lose his mind and kill me. After his drinking session, the supply management team leader stumbled through the hall, inebriated and unsteady. He suddenly felt something following him, causing him to turn and look behind, but no one was there. As he turned his attention back to walking, he sensed something crawling behind him, which sent him into a panicked run. He desperately tried to open a door using the access code, and after struggling, it finally opened. However, in his intoxicated state, he slipped and fell. As he searched for his phone to call for help, he heard banging sounds from the hallway. Terrified, he realized something was crawling toward him. He frantically tried to stand, but the alien creature crawled into the room, screeching in front of his face, its mouth wide open, ready to consume its helpless prey. The Amorph continued its covert activities, ransacking the room of the supply management team leader. It couldn't help but pass judgment on the team leader's habits. His daily patterns were simple, so it was easy, the Amorph thought. Wasting so much time drinking at the bar, he's a total wage thief. The captain should thank me since I'm reducing personnel wasting salaries. But damn, clean up once in a while. It's so dirty, I could die. As the Amorph searched for the needed ID card, it glanced at a poster of a model on the wall but found itself unresponsive to such stimuli. It picked up a notebook, and the ID card fell out, finally obtaining the key it sought. I've obtained everything available, the Amorph thought. Gotta clean up first before going. This supply manager is just so-so. The alcohol smell on his body is too strong. Lessens the appetite. Leaving the room, the Amorph proceeded to the container with thick walls, where its hypersenses couldn't penetrate. It used the acquired ID and the severed hand of the supply management team leader to gain entry. Inside, it discovered an unexpected sight. Rows of tubes were filled with various types of aliens, essentially a freezer filled with specimens. The Amorph quickly deduced that the supply management team leader was involved in smuggling. Its surprise deepened when it spotted Amorph eggs, including an empty one that once contained its own origin. That team leader was trying to smuggle me, the Amorph thought. Well, in the game, the Amorph's starting location wasn't a spaceship but an unidentified ruin. I don't know what happened during the transit, but it looks like, after hatching, the original escaped the container and died shortly after from malnutrition. And then my consciousness took over. That explains why I found roaches so delicious. It was my body's instinct to survive. I somehow feel conflicted. The Amorph paid its respects with a moment of silence and then left the room, ready to embrace its Amorph nature. Let's stop the courtesy here, it's time for some Amorph-like behavior, it resolved. Collecting 3 Amorph eggs, the creature began to feast on them, noting the absence of a predation message. Unfortunately, no predation message pops up. Well, it doesn't matter. There's still plenty to eat, the Amorph thought. Opening its status window, it saw that it needed only 2 more traits to complete its physical enhancement type. Honestly, I was a bit disappointed after eating Kisaragi. Instead of psychic powers, I got the useless psychic organ, the Amorph reflected. But to think the supply manager would give me such a precious gift. In-game, these are powerful traits you'd only get mid or late game. The most effective traits for killing the crew. With these abilities, I can move more aggressively. Not much time left until the space dogs meet up. I need to get as strong as possible since I don't know how dangerous they are. Wait for me, genetic fragments. No one in the universe will hear the screams in space. The pitiful cries of this research ship and crew will be buried completely in that dark abyss. The scene shifts to the Megacorp research ship's landing bay, where Fincher called out to Scott, suggesting it was dinner time and time to eat. Scott, engrossed in his work, replied that he needed to finish something up first, indicating that there was enough work to warrant overtime. In the cafeteria, Scott and Fincher continued their conversation. Scott expressed his confusion about the maintenance orders they were receiving, particularly those related to overhauling the fighters. I still don't get it, Scott pondered aloud, these maintenance orders. Why are they having us overhaul the fighters? Fincher, seemingly exasperated, replied, do you have to talk about work while eating? But Scott pressed on, sharing his suspicions. What, isn't it true? Think about it, Fincher. I heard that they're preparing to battle metallic gremlins. Fincher seemed shocked by this revelation. Scott continued, let me finish. The truth is, the metallic gremlins are already on the ship. Fincher reacted with disbelief. Scott elaborated, you know the weird smell in the air lately? That's the metallic gremlin smell. Plus, a friend on the cooking team told me. People have been disappearing 1 or 2 at a time since last week. Fincher questioned the credibility of Scott's claims, to which another crew member chimed in, confirming that they had heard similar rumors. I heard something too, the crew member added. The team leader is missing from supply management. So the cargo hold manager got promoted to acting team leader. Fincher, now more willing to entertain the idea, asked, really? Scott pointed out, see, Fincher. Am I right? Fincher, still trying to process the information, questioned why the higher-ups were keeping quiet about these disappearances. Another crew member explained, they're hiding it so the crew doesn't panic. Scott, not satisfied with this explanation, maintained his theory. It's all because of the metallic gremlins. Fincher, perhaps not fully convinced, finished his meal and left the cafeteria, muttering his frustrations about the situation. The scene returned to the fighter plane where Scott was working on repairs, and Fincher mentioned that he was going to grab some late-night snacks. He asked Scott if he wanted anything, to which Scott replied, I'm good. Just get me a synth drink if there is any. Scott continued his work, wondering when he would finish, when suddenly he heard Cameron's voice calling him. Scott responded that he was working and the voice assured him it would be quick. Scott slid to get up but couldn't see anyone. Perplexed, Scott said, you call me out, then disappear? He followed the voice to the repair bay, but inside, it was completely dark. The voice urged him to come over and help, so Scott began to open his flashlight, sensing something was amiss. As he did, he caught a strange smell in the air, something metallic but different. Scott cautiously asked, where the hell are you? The voice replied, over here, over here. Suddenly, while navigating the darkness, Scott stepped on a large screw, slipped, and fell, dropping his flashlight. panic set in as he remembered the rumors he had heard earlier about people disappearing on the ship, possibly due to metallic gremlins. I heard the team leader is missing in supply management. So the cargo hold manager got promoted to acting team leader. People have been disappearing 1 or 2 at a time since last week. It's all because of the metallic gremlins. Those words echoed in Scott's mind as fear overtook him. He called out for Cameron, but before he could react further, the Amorph, now behind him, mimicked Cameron's voice again. Suddenly, the Amorph grabbed Scott's face, and he let out a horrified shout as the Amorph consumed him. The Amorph, now having tasted the crew members, thought to itself, mimicry is pretty useful. Fincher returned from getting the synth juice for Scott and noticed that Scott's tools and equipment were still at the working station. He wondered why Scott had left when he never did during work. Just then, he heard Scott's voice coming from the repair bay and headed there to find out what was going on. "Why'd you go to the repair bay again?" Fincher asked as he approached. The voice replied, "Got something to find." Fincher was puzzled and questioned further, "And the lights are off too, what are you doing?" The voice responded, "Got something to move, help me." Fincher followed the voice and saw Scott's flashlight on the floor. He picked it up but was met with a horrific sight as blood began pouring down like rain. The Amorph, using Scott's voice, said, "Over here." Fincher realized the gruesome truth as he saw Scott's severed head, held by the Amorph, which screeched before consuming him. The Amorph thought to itself, "Do I have a talent for mimicry? Mimicry is so convenient." Among the creatures the supply manager had tried to smuggle was a larva of the red worm, a giant desert worm. The Amorph had consumed it and obtained its gene fragment, though it was a degraded version compared to the original. Nevertheless, the Amorph found its mimicry ability very useful and planned to mimic Cameron, someone from the cooking team, the following evening. As the Amorph contemplated its next moves, he remembered the amoeba. He decided to call it number 26. It heard a voice saying hello. It realized that it could communicate with creatures through brain waves using its psychic organ and decided to greet the voice with a hello as well. The voice belonged to number 26, and it asked if the Amorph was hungry today. The Amorph noticed that number 26's vocabulary had increased compared to before, and wondered if selenium had some unexplained effect on it. The Amorph replied, "Sorry, hard to give food today." Number 26 inquired why it was hard, and the Amorph simply responded with, "Can't give it." The Amorph explained to itself that it understood number 26's disappointment, but that the passage it used to provide food had become dangerous since the research team leader went missing. The security team leader had increased security in the lab, making the previously safe ducts above the lab risky. As a result, it hadn't been able to provide food for days and could only engage in conversations like this. As number 26 bid farewell to the Amorph couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for its well-being. It contemplated evolving to the pupa stage to help number 26. But the conditions for pupa evolution were stringent. It required the elimination and consumption of 10 individuals from each of 2 different playable intelligent races. Since there were only humans on the ship, pupa evolution seemed impossible. The Amorph considered the possibility of encountering pirates, but knew very little about them. Using its hypersenses, the Amorph observed the risk management team leader, who was wearing earphones and engaged in a conversation. The team leader reported to the person on the other end that Lady Kisaragi had been eliminated and assured that the ship would arrive at C8 as scheduled. He mentioned that all of Captain Samuel's orders had been recorded. The Amorph, watching and listening carefully, thought to itself that it had initially thought the team leader was like a bear, but now it seemed he was more like a fox. It suspected that he had instigated the captain, but the phone call hinted at plans beyond that. The Amorph decided to wait and see whether these plans would benefit or harm its own objectives. The scene shifted to a meeting where the captain expressed his anger and frustration. He questioned the security team leader about how he was handling the situation, and repeatedly asked how many crew members were missing from the ship. The security team leader explained that despite his efforts, he couldn't catch the culprits responsible for the disappearances. While the meeting continued its discussion, the Amorph watched from the vents and thought to itself that unfortunately, the culprit was right there in the vents. The captain, appearing frustrated, said he believed what the security team leader had stated. However, the risk management team leader defended the security team leader, stating that he had checked thoroughly, and the captain's accusations were unwarranted. The captain, somewhat taken aback, questioned why the culprit hadn't been caught yet and accused the risk management team leader of defending the security team leader. The risk management team leader argued that based on human standards, a human couldn't hide this extensively, and there might be some unknown entity attacking them. Another leader disagreed, stating that the ship's AI, which was once used on battleships, should have already detected any creatures on board. The risk management team leader pointed out that the freezers in the supply management team leader's container were all empty, raising concerns about the whereabouts of these creatures. The captain questioned why they hadn't seen any traces of these creatures if they were indeed responsible for the disappearances. The risk management team leader suggested that the ventilation ducts, which spanned the entire ship, could be a hiding place for the creatures. He noted that even a small creature could be dangerous, citing the example of metallic gremlins, which were only 80 cm in size but could destroy battleships. The Amorph realized that Arnold, the risk management team leader, was now a significant threat, and he regretted not dealing with him earlier. The leaders discussed the potential problems these creatures could cause, including the possibility that one of them had consumed the research team leader's corpse. They also considered the issue of dealing with the pirates. The risk management team leader proposed deploying 6 out of the 8 squads to search the ducts for the creature, and the captain granted permission for this operation. The Amorph left the meeting, knowing that it had avoided detection for a while but that this confrontation was inevitable. With the ducts effectively sealed and cameras in the halls, the Amorph felt cornered and had to make an important decision: should it run or fight? Recalling the words of the risk management team leader during the meeting, the Amorph became angry and determined to fight. It screeched, ready to confront its pursuers and protect its existence as the Amorph. Did you enjoy this video? If so, please like and subscribe for more content like this. We will continue the next part if the updates are released. Thank you for watching. Peace out.